TikTok. Some might think of it as an anomaly in the content creation world. Some might think it as the way of the future. Short 2 to 30-second videos, which really don't require a lot of attention span, seem to be growing in popularity amongst people of my generation and to an extent the people of older generations, be it middle-aged men in their 40s and their 50s, or be it teenagers in their early teens, and be it college students. Everyone is going rampant crazy over TikTok. But there is a certain sense of snobbishness, as there is a certain sense of sneering towards TikTok and the content that comes out of TikTok. It is found all around the world, but especially in Pakistan. Why are Pakistanis so skeptical towards TikTok? Why Pakistanis don't seem to like the content that comes out of TikTok? Especially not all Pakistanis. Well, most Pakistanis these days, believe me, are crazy about TikTok, and they follow their TikTokers like rock stars. But there is a certain upper class, a high intellect fragment of Pakistani society, which think of them as intellectually superior, which think of themselves as, the thinkers and the intellectuals of Pakistani society, seem to have this snobbish attitude and the sneering attitude towards TikTok and what TikTok brings. So, it all starts with the type of content. Pakistani TikTok is governed mostly by lower to lower middle class people. Pakistani TikTok is dominated by them. People from the lower to lower middle class produce, content which some might call cringe, some might call it a very crucial content, but some might call it, almost cinematic. People from both specs of Pakistani livelihoods and both specs of the Pakistani society seem to have different opinions about TikTok. But the lower to lower middle class seems to have this monopoly over TikTok, and their content that comes out, is for some a laughing matter and for some cinematic masterpiece. So this stunning attitude by the intellectual elites of Pakistan towards TikTok and the content that comes out of TikTok is really depressing in a manner that people from the lower to lower middle class, by using TikTok as a platform, are trying to express themselves. Obviously, at times, everyone on every streaming platform, on every social media platform, people do tend to cross the line. But does that mean that those people should not be allowed to express themselves truly, and those people should not be allowed to put out what they think of as art? Is art only restricted to museums and galleries and art house films? Art is beyond that. Art is anything the people want it to be. If breaking bricks on a TikTok video is art to some people, what's wrong with that? Why the sneering attitude? Why does the government feel like it needs to ban TikTok every 6 months, and only to bring it back just because of the popular demand? If something is really popular amongst the people, if something is really making people feel less miserable about their lives in this inflating economy, what's the harm in that? Why should be people stopped from using TikTok or whatever streaming site or whatever social media platform they like to use? If people want to express themselves, what is wrong with that? Isn't that just one of the basics of a democracy, of an independent democracy, that people be allowed to express themselves and people be allowed to say how they feel? Every art form or every platform for creating content, once it gets pushed into the society, once a genre is introduced into the film industry or any new art form or any new form of expression, there is always skepticism surrounding it. There is always criticism surrounding it. Star Wars, when it first came out in the 70s, people thought it is not cinema. Then 40-50 years down the line, when the MCU started to put a strong hold over the international film industry, skeptics and critics alike said that it is not cinema, the theme park rides and everything like that. So there is always that sense of cynicism involved with content that is not considered to be normal, or content that is not really considered to be artistic or to an extent pretentious in a manner, but content that really skyrockets its way into the mainstream and takes over everything. TikTok is basically doing that. The MCU is basically doing that. But the difference between the cynicism towards the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the cynicism towards TikTok, specifically in Pakistan, is some might even call it speculation. But since TikTok is ruled and TikTok is monopolized by so many people of lower to lower middle class, people tend to have this, a sniggerish, this stigmatized opinion of that content. You know, we don't want you to appreciate that content. We don't want you to criticize that content either. We don't want you to bash those people and make memes out of those people, whether those people themselves, they want to become a meme or not, for just for the clout purposes and just for the purposes of acquiring a certain level of fame. But fame aside, what I'm talking about is TikTok is a laughing matter just because it is not produced by the intellectual elites of Pakistan. There are obviously very talented people who just might qualify as intellectual elite on TikTok, but I'm talking about the monopoly that the lower to lower middle class holds over TikTok. Those people are just out there trying to express themselves, trying to express who they are, trying to express what they feel about life and what they think content should be like, and along the way finding their voices as people. And I mean, some people are going to come at me in the comments for using this term for TikTokers, but exploring themselves as artists. What's the harm in that? Pakistanis are so emotionally unstable and so afraid of change that if anything new spirals out into the market or in the mainstream, Pakistanis take their time out of their lives to specifically attack that thing. People have attacked, films. People have attacked different things that have been that have come out and tried to change the dynamic of our society and our culture. And people have taken time out of their lives to attack those things. By attacking TikTok, what you're doing is you're creating a divide between the intellectual elites and the lower to lower middle class people of Pakistan. And let me make this very clear that the intellectual elites are just so-called intellectual elites. They're not really, they don't have any high ground over the people who are making TikToks. For all I care, they're on the same level. Maybe TikTokers just might be on a higher level of than those snobs and those sneerers. But what the point I'm trying to make is that isn't it such a disturbing fact that the content created by the lower to lower middle class, underprivileged classes of Pakistan is being frowned upon so much that it has come to being banned time and time again. It has come to being, it has been subject to a lot of jokes and a lot of unnecessary, I wouldn't even call it banter, but, abusive trolling online and content that is truly for the people and truly created by the lower middle class, the working class of Pakistan. If content like that is dealt in that manner, how can you expect Pakistanis to mend the gaps and Pakistanis to finish that divide? If you really consider yourself to be the intellectual elite of Pakistan, you should give this a thought, that why the content that is created by the masses and appreciated by the masses bothers you so much. Why do you have such a sneering attitude about it? People still don't have TikTok in their phones. They don't download it just because of that stigma attached to a TikTok. And apps like these, be it Up Smash or be it any platform which makes them think of themselves as less intellectually on a higher ground, and things makes them feel less of themselves just because that content is created by the working class man. Why not give it a thought? And I know it just might sound like a far-fetched using TikTok as symbolism for the divide in Pakistani society and the class divide in Pakistani society. But if you truly, well and truly give it a thought, that everything that is produced by the working class man, that is produced by the lower to lower middle class of Pakistan, is, always has been, and hopefully not always will be, but has been frowned upon by the so-called intellectual and in general the elites of Pakistan. This is a disturbing reality. I know it seems like a non-issue, but if you really put some thought into it, it represents a lot of things that are wrong with the country.